everybody. My name is Wilson Cheung. I'm a PhD student at Queen University, and I'm a glaciological researcher as well. So you can see some little bit footage from my previous just 3 months ago to do the glaciological work in Shermanic and Ayutthaya National Park. In the Banffin and Bylot Island. So I feel very honored to share my little bit research experience in the Canadian Arctic. But first of all, in this 20-minute lecture, I will talk about a little bit research background and then why we study Banffin and Bylot Island. And then I will show you a little bit new discovery in Ayutthaya National Park and Cermak National Park. And then finally, I will share a little bit about the future scenario in the Inuit community facing the climate change in this area. Okay, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Wilson Cheung, and again, I'm at Queen University. And previously, I have several projects to work in the whole Pan-Arctic region. First of all, I work in Baffin Island now, and before I work in the University Center in Svalbard. So I monitor one ice cap. It's called Fox Fauna near Longyear Bay. And in my master, I doing my master in St. Petersburg State University. And then there's one glaciological research in Altai Mountain in between Russia, China, and Mongolia and Kazakhstan. And moreover, and I'm a member, actually I'm a fellow of International Arctic Scientific Committee, as well as a member of Scientific Committee on Antarctica Research. So basically, you see all the west circle is where I have been worked before. For instance, in Kamchatka, or in South Pole, I skied to South Pole twice, and Mount Vinson, the highest mountain in Antarctica as well. But today we mainly focus on Canadian Arctic. And you can see in this map, you can see that the bottom one, Antarctica again is a very big, massive ice mass. But however, Greenland is the second large ice mass in the world. But you can see in Canadian Arctic North and South, there's a lot of ice in this area too. So whole Baffin Bay is full of ice. It's about 20% of the ice in the world. And then, but you can see the upper part of this in this graph. You can see that in Baffin Island, they don't have that much glaciological research or monitor in this area. We have a lot in Europe, in Iceland, and in Svalbard, Alaska as well. But they don't have that much in Russian Arctic as well as in Canadian Arctic, especially in Svalbard, especially in Banffin Island and Bylot Island. That's why we have this project, work with Parks Canada office, and then we try to set up a new glaciological monitor surface in this area. And then to show up, to zoom in a little bit, this is the Banffin Island, the fifth largest island in the world. And on the top, there's a three ice cap. One is called Penny Ice Cap, another is a Brown Ice Cap. And then in this B in here, it's called Bylot Ice Cap. And you can see there's two areas. In the B graph, you can see that in here is a Bylot Island Ice Cap. And nearby, there's one community, it's called Pontiac. And C in this graph, you can see in here already is a Penny Ice Cap, the largest ice cap in Banffin Island. And then nearby there's a Penington. There's one community in this area. And then let's zoom in a little bit. And then in Ayutthaya National Park near Penny Ice Cap, there's a lot of glacier outlet along the hiking path in this area. And then actually there's 11, and we try to set up all the monitor in this 11 glacier to see how they melt or changing during this climate changing. And in the Bylot Island as well, we have one landmark or benchmark glacier we need to monitor to see how they change in 7 decades. It means 70 years. And one of my job at lab in the fieldwork season, and I'm using this historical air picture. It's about 1960, that to reconstruct the past outline of the glacier. And then once we put in this satellite imagery from Sentinel in 2023, then you can see most of the glacier they retreat quite a lot. And then my job is try to using fieldwork and then remote sensing method. It means using the satellite imagery and to see how they change in this area. which is quite impact for the local community. So usually we have 2 month work in this area. In Ayutthaya National Park and Seven Lake National Park, we build a lot of work. For instance, do the mass balance measurement, ground control using drone, and do some ice core, and then set up the weather station, and as well as to work with local community to enrich our knowledge in this area. And we 2 months work, and usually it's 1 person or 2 person work a job, and that's why we bring a lot of things, because once you're outside the community, we don't have any support, and we need to rely on ourselves. And this is our lab, and then again we bring a lot of equipment for 2 person, just go there to work in the field. And this is how I work. This at US in Ottawa airport, and then for me as a 1 person job, and then I need to bring 7 suitcases to bring all the food and then equipment to go to the Penny Ice Cap to work. So we're using the commercial flight network from Ottawa to fly to Iqaluit. And first of all, I will work in Penticton in this national park, Ayutthaya National Park, on the Penny Ice Cap, and then later on I fly all the way to Pontiac, and then nearby there's a there's a Pilot Island ice cap in this area. But however, and since after pandemic, there's a lot of airline cut the budget, and then to make the local community in the Canadian Arctic North that suffer a lot, because they increase the price and then reduce the schedule to go each community, which make our work is getting more difficult as well. And this is the first stop in Penticton, and it's about 1,000 or 1,500 people live there. And then this winter time in April this year in 2023, and you can see that the community is not that big, but it's quite cozy. But first thing when we arrive the community, we would like to introduce ourselves, because as a new generation of researcher in the Arctic in Arctic content, we would like to try to work with the local community instead of just get the data and leave, because we try to contribute and be part of the community in the Canadian Arctic. And once we introduce ourselves to talk with the local people, to let them know what we're doing, and then we need to using a snowmobile to approach from Penticton all the way to the center of the national park to measure all the glacier in this area. So this using snowmobile to drive all the way this corridor, and actually there's lots of famous vertical mountain in this area. For me, as a glaciological researcher, we really enjoy this kind of scenery, because you just along. I mean, once everybody drop off all the baggage for me, and it's a long 10 days work for myself on the ice. And then once you arrive, this called Turner Glacier, Turner Glacier. And once you arrive, this area is magnificent. And then in here is this flat top mountain. It's called Asker. I believe that is the most beautiful mountain in the Canadian Arctic, as well as the Pan-Arctic region. It's about 2,000 meters tall. And one of my dreams is really want to climb up this high mountain and then set up a total station to measure how the glacier rebounding in this area. And one interesting thing is in Canadian Arctic as well as in Greenland, a big issue is this in front of the glacier there's a lot of fresh meltwater. You can see all the blue ice actually is a fresh meltwater. And in here actually it's April in this year to take this picture. The fresh water melt formation is because in winter time they even melt the water from the surface, and that's why they form on the front of the glacier, which is indicate that even in winter time the glacier didn't take any snow to increase their mass. It means that they're losing the ice and snow in this content. And one of our job is to maintain this, to set up this monitor surface on Turner Glacier. And you can see that each 100 meter we install this stick we call our glacial stick. And then every year annually we go back and to measure how the stick melt. And this year is quite alarming because by the way, first of all, most of the stick we need to use a human power to drag everything on the top of the glacier and install each stick one by one. And most of the stick we spend, each stick we spend about 1 or 2 or 3 hours to do all the instruments. But one alarming situation we discovered is on this 500-meter abrasive stick, and we discovered that only 1 year they melt 5 meters. They lost 5 meters of ice already, and usually they lose 2 or 3 meters annually. But this year they disappear 5 meters ice thickness, which is quite alarming for us. And then first of all, and each stick we measure all the snow density as well. And you can see that on this picture, in this picture, you can see all the 1 year snow. They tell a lot of story behind the scene, because there's a lot of packed snow and then freshwater melt ice in this area, and then we can see how the increase of the temperature to impact the snow pitch or snow pack in this area. And when we arrive each stick, and we will do some kind of measurement and installation like this. First of all, we study the snow density. You can see in here, and then later on we drill 6 meters all the way to the ice, and then install this spatial stick on the ice. Yes, and then we're happy finish. And remember, we work on the glacier, and that's why we need to travel with the rope in case you don't fall inside the gap or crevasses. Otherwise, you cannot come back anymore. And then Asker, this Mount Asker, is not only one tower as a twin tower. As I mentioned before, I believe that is the most beautiful mountain in the Pan-Arctic region. And although the work on ice is quite tough, we need to spend about 10 days to work everything. But every time to see all the mountain like this is beneficial for us. And one more issue is, as I mentioned before, on the front of the glacier, there's a lot of fresh meltwater. And actually, this picture is in April. So you can imagine, in wintertime and springtime, they still have lots of meltwater floating out because they're melting, even in wintertime. But one more thing is, after all the work and then sit in front of this meltwater, and all the blue ice around me is amazing. And then I like to camping in this area too. After finish the job, just sit and quietly to understand the beautiful of the nature, especially in the Arctic region. You can see how so big. Only me with my field work partner. Only 2 persons just work in this area. It's magnificent. It's a big area too. Yes. And then sometime I try to introduce a low impact, no carbon emission impact to study the glacier as well. And previously you see that we're using snowmobile to approach the glacier, but now I try to using this slow kite using the wind power to approach the glacier. So we try to reduce our footprint in this area to measure the glacier work in this area. And again, this area is not only us, and there's a lot of polar bear as well. And in this, you can see in this picture, there's two polar bear baby with mother. There's a mother footprint just around us. It's very fresh, and it's quite scary for us because we need to camp on the ice as well for our work, and that's why we set up this alarm system and to prevent the polar bear suddenly come and then just say hi. And then moreover that every time when we go back to tent, and I need to record all the uh, to observation on the glacier. Plus, I really don't like this situation. This situation is we need to sleep with the gun because in case the polar bear come, and it's not friendly, which is not very nice for us. But however, according my 10 years career in polar region, and we never shoot a polar bear, and because we did a very good job to store all the food far away, and then observe everything before we set up a camp. And one more job we have to do is install the weather station on the top of the ice cap. And this weather station is about 2,500-meter height. And then we need to using the helicopter to go there to set up this weather station. And at the same time that you see, I collect some ice core to study the snow profile and how the high temperature impact this high elevation of the ice cap. But however, it's not good story to share with you. And you can see that usually the ice core on the top there's some snow and or fern layer. But this year when we collect all the ice sample, we discovered that this kind of snow and fern layer is disappeared because as I mentioned before, because even in springtime or wintertime they melt out and then to transfer all the way to the front of the glacier, become this blue ice area. So basically, what I want to say is this glacier is melting even in wintertime, and they don't take up any snow and mass during wintertime to compensate their loss. And then with helicopter rides, it's amazing. You can see all the mountain in this area in Ayata National Park. Actually, this mountain is called Thor, and then it's the highest vertical uh, mountain in the world. And once we return to the community, all the community members is very friendly, and then they know our work in the ice cap, and that's why they cook the milk for us. And moreover, that they show some traditional work they have, for example, the fishing, and then some food for us as well. But once we finish the job, it's not done yet because we still have another. I still have another job in Pilot Island. So this is the Pilot Island, and there's a one longest glacier on the Pilot Island ice cap. It's called Artenek Glacier, and we need to camp on the glacier and then install all the stick. But however, one person or two person work is not strong enough to do all the work. That's why we propose another glacier. It's called Fountain Glacier nearby to install this glacier monitor surface in this area. And then you can see it here. We set up a camera here and then install all the stick until 1,200-meter height. And then we need to drive. This is a summertime satellite imagery. But in wintertime, all the areas are frozen and then become sea ice. And that's why we can use snowmobile to approach to study area. And there's this little bit footage. You can see in wintertime, all is frozen, all is sea ice. But in summertime, all is open ocean. And that's why for us, we always work in wintertime to go to the glacier. And you can see everything, just nothing, but except this small community is called Pontinet. And then this in front of the Fountain Glacier, again, we need to carry all the things in human power. And it's quite interesting. You can see this Fountain Glacier. Why this glacier is called Fountain Glacier? Because there's a big fountain in front of this glacier. And then because under this glacier there's a permafrost, because permafrost they don't really absorb all the water, so all the melt water under the glacier they build a high pressure, become this spring, or we call it fountain. And then you can see this evident already. This in summertime they become a fountain in this area, but in wintertime they're frozen. So I'll show you this little bit. We skip this, and then I told you this before, and then all of my work actually involve a lot of helicopter ride as well, which is I feel really privileged that to see all the glacier that no one had been there before, or no one been studied before. And I really want why I want to become a glaciological researcher, because I really want to understand more about this area, especially no one studied here before, and in order to contribute that our knowledge in cryosphere in this area. And that's why, as I mentioned before, we are not only just take the data and leave, and we try to do all the community engagement project in this area when we study the ice in this area. First of all, we always go to the supermarket to sit there for one day to listen to the local knowledge, and we do some school talk to visiting the local school and to do some school talk, and then to put up our training for some fieldwork training for the local people as well. And one interesting project is
more blue. Yeah, perfect.
I try to teach this slope kite for the local community. Local hunters really like this idea because they believe that using this slope kite to approach some hunting animal or be hunted animal would be great, because it's quite low profile and they don't use any snowmobile to approach the animal.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing is I try to become the local community member as well. And you can see some local really also make film meeting for us for me, and then I feel really appreciate for their warm-hearted because they just make this meeting for me, and then they invite me to do some badminton and then some talk like this. I really appreciate this pure human relationship during my work in Canadian. And again, all of my work in Canadian Arctic is um, we need to I need to thanks for a lot of people support my work in this area. First of all, this Martin, Martin is a local Inuit hunter. He helped me a lot in penny ice cap as well as some Park Canada office staff, and he's new and helped me a lot of paperwork to work on the penny ice cap as well as this his pilot Charlie and find me everywhere in whole area. And finally, I would like to thank for my supervisor, Dr. Laura Thompson at Queen University. Without her to offer this position for me, and I cannot work in Canadian Arctic. So this little bit information on sharing about my work in Canadian Arctic. If you have any question, you can reach me by email or just leave your question in this area, and I'll try to answer your question later on. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my lecture and share a little bit about information about the glaciological work in Canadian Arctic. Okay, bye bye. Enjoy your time.